morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome again to another edition of the Living World of Darkness, Rage Across New York. Take it away.
You little shit. Alright. Alan, apparently has been having himself a slew of mental problems. And so he seeks out the help of his therapist. A young woman with blonde hair, short stature, and an infinite amount of charisma by the name of Sarah Black. As he walks up to this building, which is clean and the grounds well maintained, and the sounds of individuals ranging anywhere from middle school all the way up through college, coming and going. There are college students outside doing homework, getting ready for the next semester that is soon to start. There are children in the interior basketball courts that are playing pickup games. The sounds of the pool can echo out through the halls, and somewhere somebody is playing a rather vigorous game of racquetball, having the time of their life. As Alan makes his way from the athletic center through the library and towards the wellness part of the entire community center, it quiets down to a little murmur, to just a sort of calming, a nondescript music of various variety. And when he comes up at the main desk of the Wellness Center counseling offices, a young woman sits there with red hair, doing some work on a computer, and with a headset on her head as she is taking calls and making appointments.
Alan, with his rose-tinted glasses and his New York Yankees cap on, totally dressed in what you could only be described as hippie garb, but with shoes. Thumbs up. Goes up to the front desk where the receptionist is and just goes ahead and politely knocks. I have an appointment, 3:30 for Dr. Black.
She'll look up at Alan, stop, and then roll herself over to another computer and bring it up. Oh, right, we were supposed to get a call out to you today. I guess you didn't leave a number for us. Okay. Dr. Black is out of the office today, had something to take care of. She referred you to Dr. Rourke.
Dr. Rourke?
Yes, she is one of the other counselors here.
You notice that Alan gets, like, sort of nervous about that, the fact that it's been changed, and he's like, maybe I should just come in another day?
I can schedule you something else, but this seems to be the block that we have available for the next couple of weeks.
God damn it.
Dr. Rourke and Dr. Black have worked together for many years, Mr. Stewart. I am more than sure that she's capable of handling your portfolio.
Oh, okay, I guess that's all right.
Besides, she usually feeds her clients, too.
Fair enough.
And so she'll go ahead and press a button on her desk. You hear kind of like a little sort of mechanical sounding ring in her headset that's loud enough that you can hear. And she's like, "Oh, Dr. Rourke, I have an Alan Stewart to see you." And you hear the pleasant sound of someone sort of acknowledging it and saying something along the lines of "send him back." And the woman woke up. You're all set. She's waiting for you. And when you come out, just let us know when you want to schedule your next appointment, okay?
Alan goes ahead and gives a very, very forced smile, goes ahead and knocks on the desk. Yes, thank you. What was your name again?
Aaron.
It's nice to meet you, Aaron. You have a good day.
You too. She goes back to her back to her chair or to her original computer. When you look around over her shoulder, you can see that she quickly pulls up a screen of Candy Crush.
Yes, that's about right. Alan will go ahead and make his way to the back, actually.
You come across the original door that you had seen Dr. Black in. The door is closed and a little window that lets you see in. The lights are off. And the daytime sun is sort of coming in through the window in the back of the office. When you make your way over to the next office, you come across the the engraved nameplate for Dr. Joyce Rourke. And the door is open.
Alan will go ahead and knock off the threshold.
You hear a voice, though you can't see the person, as they are off in a little side room that seems to span between the two offices. Come on in. Just give me a minute.
Alan is going to go ahead and take advantage and walk into the office. What does this place look like?
The office itself is set up similar to Dr. Black's. It is a sort of circular room or an oval room, depending on how you want to look at it. There is a rather large circular desk that seems to be kind of it almost looks like an antique. Sort of looks like it might have been made out of like one entire section of a very large tree, maybe redwood. The old wood depict various kind of looks like something you might see from a Grecian sort of style or a Roman style, with depictions of some kind of senatorial proxy of democracy. It's really hard to tell. On the far end of the room, there is a door that's left open just a crack, and you can kind of see what looks to be like a small restroom, maybe, or not a restroom, but like a break room with a couch that looks like or a futon rather, looks like it's actually pulled out into a bed, and you can see a small cubby hole with what looks to be a woman's business clothes, and you see a couple of pairs of more casual attire, a pair of sneakers and workout clothes, and a small bathroom attached to it with what looks to be a shower stall. So it's likely that this woman, whoever she is, sometimes sleeps at the office, and that the office is equipped to facilitate that. And on the other side of the room, the door that her voice came from kind of breaks up the wall, where there is a large bookshelf with various books of various authors and various centers on mental health, kind of everything you might expect to see. And near there is a high-back chair and what looks to be a very comfortable couch.
Alan, for his part, is actually more interested in the bookshelf, so he's going to start to wander over in that direction, start to look at the different spines and read them.
You see everything from Freud and Pavlov. You see books on child psychology and books on modern adult dysfunction. It's all kind of what standard fare, what you might expect to find in there. However, all the books look like they've been worn. The spines all look like they've been heavily used. And if you pay some closer attention, you see that some of these books have little post-it note tabs in them. So you can tell that somebody uses these books on a regular basis.
Alan, for his part, being cheeky as he is, starts to look at the earlier theories and subjects from Floyd, actually. The stuff that focuses more on internal urges repressed, or especially the id and the superego complex. He's just going to go ahead and see if he can't find one of those theses and take it out and, look through the first few pages.
I'll roll a little fake dice to see what happens. Okay, you don't find anything in there. Nothing of value. Other than the book itself.
The book is valuable. The knowledge is valuable, my good sir.
Sure. Finally, after a moment, you can smell the aromatic smell of popcorn, and you see a woman walk out with a bowl of popcorn in one hand. She's dressed in what looks to be a work sort of suit, pantsuit, or not pantsuit, but like a suit skirt, and a teal blouse that covers it up fairly well. Her sleeves are rolled up just above the elbow, and she is walking in your standard work heels. As she comes around to the couch, her hand comes to the back of it as she walks along it, and she reaches over the couch to set the book down.
Ma'am?
And she doesn't seem to react until you speak, and then she turns. Yes. And when she turns, she faces her whole body squarely off with you.
Dr. Rook?
Yes, that's me. Mr. Stewart?
Yes, actually. Excuse me. Alan's gonna go ahead and start to replace the book. Go ahead and walk over, sort of extended hand. It's nice to meet you.
She'll hold her hand out about halfway. You notice that she doesn't reach any further.
You'll go ahead and make the connection and stealth by stepping up, grabbing it, giving it once and twice shakes.
And she'll return the shake. And she cants her head to one side, and she kind of smiles. Were you reading the book on Freud?
Yeah, actually.
I really don't get a chance to go over his work all that often anymore. Seems that in New York, at least my clients, are not on the scale of sexual dysfunction.
Fair enough. What do you usually go over then?
Mostly, I go on to more modern practices and more modern theories and theses. Modern crisis prevention, mostly. Young people.
Fair enough. I think that does you well in this sort of facility. A lot of the young people come by with a lot of problems.
Yes, occasionally they do. Is that better?
Much better.
Okay, god damn it. This computer, I swear to God. But yeah, mostly crisis prevention for youth these days, the younger crowd. In fact, she looks at his chart. How did he report his age? Or she doesn't look at his chart. She opens the folder and puts her hand on it.
The age that is reported is 26.
And she's like, you're about at the higher end of the clientele I usually see, but not the oldest.
I can't imagine. So how does this work?
Well, you sit down on the couch and we have ourselves a little chat.
Okay. Alan's gonna go ahead and walk to the couch, sort of sit down.
She'll walk the entire length of the couch, and you'll notice that her hand never leaves the couch itself. And then she takes 3 very measured steps until she makes her way to the chair, which she places a hand on and then moves to sit down.
Alan sort of actually sits there and starts to twiddle his thumbs, actually.
So, Mr. Stewart, Sarah informed me a little bit about what you all talked about last time. Would you mind sort of putting it into your own words?
I was in a bad place, thinking about doing something very bad, and she talked me out of it.
All right. It's a little bit more vague than I'm used to, but I can respect it. She has this very pleasant smile, and she sets her chart down. And go ahead and roll me a perception or intelligence academics roll.
Okay, can do. How evident is that pure breed as well? That's the question. No successes on the intelligence academics.
I would say to you, she looks very desirable. If not only for her appearance, the fact that she exudes something about her. You don't recognize it as pure breed, at least not in the way that you would think. Like, you can see the hints of a bloodline there, but it's not like in your face like it is with, say, a Silver Fang or a Black Fury or Get. It's almost like a vestige of something that used to be there.
Currently a confused look on Alan's face that you can't really betray.
Nope. Well, not with her anyway. So you were inclined to do something a bit rash the last time you spoke.
Yeah.
She'll cross one leg up over the other and sit back, kind of steeple her, or kind of interlace her fingers as they rest over her stomach. So, you've had something of a traumatic background. You're coming to us with instances of violence in your past. Am I to understand that correctly?
Yeah, actually. They started occurring when I was hitting puberty, becoming a teenager, becoming a young adult, and, well, just to be quite honest, it never really stopped.
I guess one good question would be, do you want them to stop?
Hmm. Yeah. Um, I want them to stop. I don't want to be in a situation that's so prone to violence, let's just say.
Would you say that the circumstances of your violent outbursts, if they are still an issue, do you think they come from your environment or more from a will to do harm?
I'd say a bit of both, actually. I've always been very, very angry. Well, I wasn't as a kid. I got to be as a young adult, and I just kept being really, really angry. The situation I'm in, the environment, just it's for some reason or another, it just simply fosters it. I mean, you have to push, you have to shove to get your way. We all know that. But sometimes you have to really hurt somebody else. Not, related to you. It's just you got to, because he's got something that you want, or he's holding on to something that he ought not to, and you just gotta cut, bitch.
I'm gonna roll a perception empathy on that one.
Mhm.
Do 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 do. Do 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 do. With 3 successes. What does Joy get? What is he? How is he inferring? What inflection does it have? What can she gather from that?
Just from his voice, I guess?
Mhm.
Okay. What you can get is from the inflections, from the various pauses throughout his sentences. Violence is something he's learned to accept, never something that he wants. And when he says, have to cut a bitch, his voice cracks. He doesn't want to say the words. He just has to.
She'll just lean back and nod. Do you ever feel like you gain ground when you have these outbursts? Do they get you anywhere? Do they achieve goals that you were setting out to achieve?
Honestly, not really. I think they're okay. I get really, really angry when something very, very bad happens. I've had 3 people close to me, well, around me at least, one of which I was actually close to, get really, really hurt and didn't get back up. Let's just say.
Did these people not get back up because of your involvement?
I fought. I got involved because I didn't want more people around me to get hurt and fall and not get back up. Some of them happened when I was not around. It was literally fucking behind my back, which really I hate that much. One of which I can only come in like in the aftermath, and the other one just fucking died right in front of me.
She sits back and she seems to have a very empathetic look on her face. Like, you can tell from the way that she's looking, she understands. Probably more than you think she could. Are you familiar with the story of Sisyphus?
Is that the bloke that continues to struggle with a huge block to roll it over a hill just to have it squash him and have him start all over?
Yes.
Yes, I'm familiar with the story.
Your story strikes me very similar to that, Mr. Stewart.
I guess I gotta say, in what way? I mean, what did Sisyphus do to deserve that?
Sisyphus was punished. You, on the other hand, I gather that you harbor a lot of guilt, that you were not directly involved with these deaths, but you hold guilt that you weren't able to prevent them. And it almost seems like you expect more people to die, some of them likely in front of you.
It's a crazy world. I mean, yeah, I do expect it. I'm scared as shit about it.
That's only fair. The world we live in is a rather crazy one. And it sounds like you have struggled more than the average person.
What do they say? God only gives you trials and tribulations as much as you can actually have the strength to fight back against. Is that it? I don't know. I was never really a preacher boy. I knew a few preacher boys. They're not here anymore.
I would say that that is more of a destructive, wishful thinking vein. We simply take on burdens that come from what goes on around us and what's within us.
And how do you deal with it?
That depends. I have a fairly good support system. I have somebody in my life that I care deeply about and cares deeply about me. I'm in a profession that I find very satisfying. I get to help people.
That's cool.
And every now and then I have an opportunity to experience things that most others don't get to. I've been to the Tiger's Nest in Bhutan. I've been in a shark cage before and experienced a very large fish coming up against the bars. I have been invited where a tiger was being operated on. That was rather impressive.
Seems like you've either seen a lot of things or been all over the world.
In certain senses. And she kind of chuckles and smiles at that.
Okay. Did you ever feel like you were in a crowd of people, yet you were the loneliest sorry sod in the world?
Yes.
Have you ever been completely and utterly alone in a very, very quiet space, but be totally content with yourself?
There are times, yes.
I like those times.
Times like that allow us for reflection. Times like that allow us to focus on what's within us. How often do you have those chances these days?
These days, I don't really get very many chances anymore. My living arrangements are kind of crowded, and every so often I have to go out there with a group of boys and make sure that shit doesn't go down. So it's very loud all the time.
What would you do if you didn't have to go out with the boys? It sounds to me like you view what you do as an obligation. If you didn't have these burdens that are weighing you down, that force you to experience some of these really horrible things, what would you do?
I think I'd go back to San Francisco. I know I'd fucking go back to San Francisco. I go to San Francisco, forget about everybody, and just sort of find that one Ocean Avenue, sit there, talk with some pretty little young thing for hours and hours and hours and hours, and so fucking long we'd forget about the time. We forget if it was the afternoon or the evening. We forget, which stars were above. We just simply talk about all sorts of nonsense, about stupid shit like our families, like our brothers or sisters, like our friends, like our exits, like what we want to do with the world, what we want our future to be like, what our kids would look like, what. Oh, fucking hell.
Joy has kind of a subdued smile on her face. Have you recently experienced a breakup, Mr. Stewart?
I have. It wasn't a
Tell me
very,
about.
very well. It wasn't a very, very long relationship, about 3 months, but it was the first relationship I've had in quite a long while since I got settled in New York.
Tell me about her. I'm assuming it's a her.
She's got real colorful hair, actually. Real colorful hair. And she wants to be a nurse. She wants all these wonderful things. She's got dreams, like really, really heavy dreams she wants. She loves her family. She loves her home. She wants to be independent. I want her to be safe. The conflict really comes from there. I wanted her to be safe. She wanted to be independent. She walked away from me.
What put her in jeopardy that made you feel that you needed to keep her safe?
The world is a very dangerous place. You know that. I think you know that more than anybody.
She's just kind of sitting back to let him talk.
In my life, I have faced knife wounds. I have faced gunshots. I have faced all manner of terrible people wishing to do me harm. And all during that time, I've learned to see things. Learned to see things that nobody else does. Here's the thing: you go down to a restaurant. Let's say you go down to O'Toole's and you're simply standing in line and you notice the cashier's getting really, really jittery. You notice that behind you there's a man with a big, big hoodie and a goddamn bulge in his pocket. You got like 3 seconds to really think whether or not he's just grabbing for his wallet or if he's grabbing for something a little bit stronger. And that's the world I live in.
And you wanted to keep her safe from that.
Yeah.
Does this woman have a name?
I like to keep that private.
That's only fair, and you don't have to share it with me. But I will extend the olive branch anyway. That this works better if you are open and honest with me. And
Enough?
anything said in here is confidential.
You sure about that?
Between myself and Dr. Black, we make sure that our patient's confidence is of the utmost importance.
Okay.
The only time that we are required to report is when we feel that there is a imminent crime about to be committed. And even then, it's only details pertinent to that. But that's simply New York state law.
Fair enough. Do you know who referred me to your offices?
That I'm afraid I don't have.
No, it wasn't recorded because Dr. Black never really asked.
Unfortunately, Sarah likes to play a little bit more fast and loose and leave me with the paperwork.
Would you like to just clear that up right now?
If you feel so inclined.
A young man by the name of Travis Moran.
So then, Mr. Stewart,
Mm-hmm.
you come to us from Central Park.
First of all, I must apologize for appearing to you in such a session without actually declaring myself at the door. I deeply apologize to both you and Miss Black. I did not realize that you were not of the nation until after my first visit.
Well, no harm, no foul, right?
Yep, yeah. And no harm that can't be undone, right?
I've gotten used to suspicion. I've made my choices, and I know that Gaian individuals still have quite a bit of distrust for anybody who's not of the nation, whether that be Ronin or even other shape changers.
I didn't want to come to you in an official capacity, but I believe we've come to that particular portion of the conversation. My name is Alan Stewart. I am of the nation. I am a child of Gaian Fostern of the people of Central Park at the Sept of the Green. You are?
Joy Rourke. At one time, people called me a child of Gaia.
Really?
Some time ago, but yes.
What did the nation used to call you?
I'd rather not share my old deed name.
What if I trade mine for yours?
That seems only fair.
Believe me, I've been in this situation before on the other side of it. It never really gets easier. The nation knows me by Silver Tongue.
At one time, people called me Somber Echoes.
From what sept do you hail from?
Out of character, I never quite planned that out. So in character, she is just going to say a nondescript set which she has history with.
Awesome. That works for me. Right. And this is the question that you kind of have to be honest about, just with me. If you would like, I can keep this information as confidential as you want, and there is only one other person that will ever know it, that being the warden of the sept. I need the reasons for your ostracism.
I, upon meeting Sarah, fell head over heels in love with her. So much so that I left the set that I called home and we traveled. Unfortunately, the places that we went to were not very condoning. Even if we weren't breaking the litany in the strictest sense of the terms. There are those that felt that Tugaru, even if they are of the same gender, is not a appropriate relationship. When confronted with that, I was not willing to accept that, and neither was Sarah. At that point, she renounced, and I followed her.
Is there any Galliard that would have a record of that renunciation?
The last I had heard of, I gotta think of a name, so give me a second. Um, Benjamin Flywheel,
Benjamin Flywheel, and what sept does he hail from?
and she'll say a sept somewhere in the northwest. I had heard that he had met his end when they were trying to cleanse a hive.
Tis unfortunate that that just keeps happening, isn't it?
It's unfortunate that we find ourselves fighting with individuals we once called brothers and sisters.
You are talking about the dancers.
Yes. There is a part of me that pities them greatly.
What other interactions have you had with the Sept of the Green besides this little conversation we're currently having?
I've met once or twice with Travis. He seems pleasant enough, but I've learned through multiple encounters with other individuals from the SEP that I don't think he particularly cares for me. I don't think he approves of me being in this city. And I can understand why. We're an unknown element. One day we could be assisting you, or at least willing to. Another day we might be willing to assist forces that would do you harm. And you can never know for sure because we have no concrete loyalties, I suppose.
I certainly understand that. So you would understand why your presence in the city would be such a tense bug in some of the Garu back at the Sept.
That's why I try to steer clear of Central Park, even if it is a place that I am told is very beautiful.
It is. It really is, which does make me sad.
Maybe someday I'll be welcomed into the Sept with open arms, but I feel that the nation would have to change drastically before that could happen.
Joyce, I'm one of Unicorn's brood. I know how important love is. I know how important peace is. I know for a matter of fucking fact there are much more progressive septs out there than there are in the Sept of the Green.
I don't want to have to live wondering if I travel from one place to another that claiming Sarah as my mate would be legitimate or not. I find that to be a vicious double standard, and it's a problem I had contention with for a very long time. And when Sarah was no longer willing to accept it, it only cemented that for me.
So you, following your heart, followed her out of the nation.
When she left the nation, I had to follow. I couldn't just let her go by herself.
I can definitely understand that. And how long have you been doing this?
Quite honestly, I've lost track. Since before I was... maybe it was a little bit after I reached drinking age. I'm not really sure. It's been many years.
After the first year, it just gets hard to track time, doesn't it?
Well, after the first year, we both became very dedicated to our, and she kind of holds out her hands, our work in this field. Well, at least getting our degrees so we could do that.
Okay, I understand that. So you threw yourself into something that you believed in.
Yes, and we've managed to help a few Garu here and there that when they came to us, maybe we're not fully aware of what we were until afterwards, and some of them have gotten themselves out of a very dark place with just a bit of guidance.
So you would call
Though,
yourselves invisible hands, making sure that all the little structures of the nation kept standing for the betterment of others around them.
I'd say more we did what we can. We mostly deal with just standard human beings. We don't really get to encounter Garu all that much. In fact, I'd say in this past year I've interacted with more Garu and kin than I have in the past 3 years.
You know that can be a bit of contention within this city, right?
The interaction?
Yes.
Yes. Which is why we don't come to you.
I understand that.
I've learned over the course of the past 5 years or so that, well, let's put it at... God damn it.
I seriously don't know what it is.
I know.
I switched
Continue.
from one mic to the other. I know it's a point of contention, and we try to avoid it when we can. But if you come to us, we won't turn you away.
That's not a bad arrangement. You say 5 years. Oh, for fuck's sakes. I'm trying to think back. Okay. How do you do it? No, fucking seriously. How do you do it? How do you survive? He's actually, when he says these words, there's like a note of urgency in that, as like, do you have a secret? That kind of thing.
She sits back and regards him. I would say that we take it day to day, and sometimes action by action. When you look at what you have before you as a Gaian, it's an insurmountable task. To set Gaia right, to set or destroy forces of the worm right, in one way or another. To limit the Weaver's influence, that's a very daunting task. One that none of us will ever see come to fruition, more than likely. However, if you get out of bed in the morning and you deal with what's in front of you first, maybe it's have a quiet morning, a cup of coffee, and read the paper without being interrupted. Maybe it's on my way to the set, finding at least one person that I can make smile. in the set. Try and get a little bit more than my workload done in a single day. Maybe help somebody else out that is struggling. And you continue to build on that as much as you feel you're able. You never have to go beyond what you're capable of that day. When you break it down into smaller chunks, it's much easier to go from one point to the next rather than trying to jump the Grand Canyon, so to speak.
I guess I can understand that. A little bit different for me. The day in the life of me. Get up, worry, put it the sept, worry, go out for a hunt, continue to worry, scream, rant, and rave at everybody around you just to get them into formation, continue to scream and rant and rave to get them into formation, take down that worm abomination in front of you, hope to dear God somebody doesn't fucking die because they're goddamn stupid, turn to the sept, continue to worry.
Okay. When you go out from here, what do you plan to do tonight?
What I plan to do tonight? Plan to go home, crash, try to fight all the bad shit. Try to escape. Try to find some place in the dream time where I can just sit and be subtle and create my own little world in my head.
Okay. Perhaps today, rather than going home and crashing, go out to a cinema. Go see a movie.
You're still trying to go ahead and give me a session, even after I just told you what I was.
It's what I'm here for, Alan.
Fair enough, Joyce. Shakes his head. I had somebody yell this at to me. I mean, like, really just get inside my head and just yell at me about this one. Told me that there is so much bullshit that I could be doing right now. Because I had, people around me. I had a support structure. And I was like, fine, I'll go ahead and do it. And I did. But that doesn't stop me from continuing to worry about the bullshit that I continue to worry about. I mean, for Christ's sakes, we're in a goddamn war. We're still in wartime. I can't find myself going out to a bar, getting absolutely bullets drunk, and walking home with some stranger. I can't do it.
No, probably can't. But you could go, if you can't go see a movie, go to a Redbox, rent a movie. Watch it at home. Go out to a restaurant and have a meal just by yourself. Food that you find absolutely decadent and only indulge in when you have a surplus of income. If that means that you consume an entire gallon of ice cream on your own, along with lobster and filet, have that be your evening.
He goes ahead and shakes his head. No. I've never been one for fancy stuff, and I've never been one for comfort. Oh no, you don't believe me? I literally sleep on the floor. And not in lupus. I just go ahead and lay on my back.
Then rent a hotel room tonight. I'm assuming you're part of a pack.
Mm-hmm.
Tell your pack that you won't be home this evening, that you're out patrolling, or you're out... If you want to be completely honest, tell them that you're taking a me night. And sleep in a bed that's just yours, that you don't have to share, in a room that you know will be devoid of anyone else, where you can literally have a moment to yourself.
I did say that I enjoy those times when I'm alone, but well, to be quite honest, I much prefer one-on-one. It doesn't matter who the person is, just as long as we have a long conversation about nonsense and bullshit. I just want somebody to talk to and somebody to listen to me and somebody to talk at me and I can listen to. Hell, I love dreams. I really do. I love hearing about dreams. I love hearing about stories. I love all that nonsense.
Take one of your packmates with you, or somebody from the set, then.
Probably a good idea.
I'll tell you what, and she holds out her hand. Do you see that little... And she's staring directly forward and holding out her hand. Is there a clay pot on the table? It looks like a little box.
He looks, and if there is as such, he'll reach out for it.
And she'll just hold out her hand, expectingly waiting for it.
We'll offer it over.
And she'll open it, and you see a slew of gift cards inside. And you notice that... make me a perception alertness check.
Okay. Bam. Nope, I ain't got nothing.
Wow, you're really bad at this today.
I know.
You all motherfuckers need chameleon. You notice that she's holding them up, not regarding them with her eyes, and she's running her fingers over each individual card just along the edges. You may not see why she's doing it, but she finally comes to one and pulls it out. This is a Panera card. She holds it out towards Alan. It is a Panera card.
I have no idea what a Panera car is, but Alan will reach out and take it.
It's a Panera card, like the restaurant Panera.
Oh, I did not even know what that name was. Apparently it's a restaurant. Awesome.
So she hands it over to Alan. That's about $50 worth of goodies. And she'll set the rest back in the little container and shut it and set it in front of her.
And we'll go ahead and take the gift card, look at it, take his wallet out, put it in the wallet, shove it back into his back pocket.
Go out and buy yourself and a friend food. Enjoy a hotel room. And just decompress. I've known too many Garu that have wound themselves up to the point where they're about to burst. And they never give themselves time to take a real reprieve or a respite from what it is that Gaian Garu have to do.
Aren't you? No, I guess not.
Technically, no, I'm not. I like to think, though, that we're helping in our own way.
Okay, I'll try it, but I'm sorry, this is gonna be a really, really fucking weird question, but I don't think I'm ever gonna be able to ask this again. How does it feel to be dead?
She'll narrow her eyes. I don't think I follow.
when I left, first time, they told me I was dead. They took my name away from me. Never gave it back.
Ah. When I chose my fate, when the declaration was made, it was one of the most liberating experiences I'd ever had. Because it was a choice that I got to make with somebody I cared about deeply. And it was our choice. Nobody else's. No great, grand, celestial spirit. No overbearing nation. Not an elder. Not a philodox. It was our choice. And it was ours alone. And we could own it. And no one could take it away from us.
That must have been very, very liberating.
When you say that what's it like for me to be dead, I say that I have never felt more alive.
Okay. Let me ask you this. I'm the Den Father. I see a lot of cubs come through my doorstep. One of them didn't come to me directly. You went ahead and found that one.
Savior.
Yeah. Joyce, I'd like to thank you. No, really, I'd really like to thank you. That has been one of my most fucking rebellious, fucking back-talky, tie horse son of a bitch, but he still walks. He's a Gleath now. And I have you to thank for that one.
I just simply pointed him in a direction where he would be safe. I'd like to think that... I think so. I like to think that the path that I walk is not for somebody who hasn't already had a chance to be educated, should ever be presented with. If someone has become a member of the nation and risen in the ranks and can see it for what it is, then they're properly prepared to make that judgment. And most of them choose to stay with the nation. That's fine. It's where they belong if that's what they feel. And to a point that makes me... It gives me a certain bit of satisfaction that they are where they feel safest, where they feel happiest, where they feel that they have the most purpose.
You say that, and I wonder what would have happened if that decision went the other way.
If he chose to join us, I would be a bit skeptical at first. I've known Garu that have chosen to align with those outside of the nation. And sometimes they do it on an impulse or a whim. Sometimes they do it because they feel that there is no other choice. And in doing so, sometimes in their haste, they make a poor decision. And then they wind up miserable. And then they end up in Harano, and usually within a year are dead. Whether by another's claws or they opt out. I've seen it happen. I walk this path because I am able. And because I have somebody beside me that walks it with me. When someone comes to us looking to break away from the nation, I have to ask them if they truly believe that they can make it. alone. My circumstance is fairly unique. Others won't have that kind of support, or at least not guaranteed. I will not put the needs or well-being of others over myself or Sarah. But I will help if I can. And that may be selfish, and I'm sure there are those that would probably call it cowardly. But it's the path I chose.
Prudent. But it is. Keep people around you that you know you can trust.
I have others that I've trusted. Some of them have worked out, some of them not. Luckily for me, I didn't have to decide what happened to the people that I didn't.
Who did? If you don't mind me prying.
Depending on the situation. I've seen other members of a shame step up for us.
And that's shames. They're called prides. You know that.
I like to think of us as just a pack, but I know that everybody has a label for everything.
Well, if it helps, continue persisting. Dark thoughts don't plague you too much. As you said, support structure to help you continue on without having to opt out or fall beneath somebody else's claws.
No, I'm not saying it's not difficult. There are times when I have questioned my circumstances and my choices. And she kind of sits back and relaxes back in the chair slightly. And she'll actually kick her shoes off at that point, now that she's being a little bit more informal. But I own up to those decisions, whether they're good or bad, or indifferent.
Owning up to decisions, owning up to regrets. At the end of the day, you made the decision and you have to deal with the consequences. That's how I've always tried to live.
It's not a bad way to live. At least no one can call you irresponsible.
Nobody would ever call me irresponsible. Nobody. I know some that are.
You who are, especially younger ones. Impetuous, impatient.
I think you've just described half my cubs.
Well, imagine being thrust into a world where suddenly you have the power of a demigod. And suddenly having that sort of responsibility thrust on you. And that temptation by comparison.
That temptation to just say, fuck it all and wreck somebody's furniture?
Yes. Let me ask you, the first time that you found out that you could take a shotgun blast to the face and get up and say, please, sir, may I have another? There's a certain fulfilling sensation, wasn't it?
I was too smart to get shot.
Well, that was my first experience with finding out how quickly we healed.
I think the first chance I got a chance to actually figure out how fast we heal, I got stabbed. I actually got stabbed in the back of Tuli's. Stabbed in the back of Tuli's. Bastard was standing right in front of me. I pushed him into the fire, and I laughed.
There's a certain grim satisfaction from that, I'm sure.
being a Garu does carry a lot of power with it. And certainly a lot of alienation.
Yes, that's true. So as you progress, you learn techniques to acclimate better. If it wasn't for the fact that I had learned how to suppress my rage enough, I don't think I could interact with all these people.
I still can't.
It takes time. I believe the term you used in the nation is Afro.
Afro. Yes, that's a rank in the nation.
They haven't changed.
Why would they? They're very, very traditional.
Hmm. I've been all over this world, Alan, and everybody has a name for something. The Wendigo call an Arun one thing, the Get call it another.
I'm a child of the guy like you yourself once were. Talk to me as that.
I'm afraid I don't have any weed on the premises.
Wow. Things. No, really, things. You're doing the nation proud. Or at least the tribe proud.
She chuckles. Maybe it will help with my glaucoma.
But no. Seriously, you have no idea. Oh, you probably do have an idea. I don't interact with a lot of people. I do so through lots of intermediaries. In fact, I have no idea how in the world I got through the front doors of this facility without freaking people out.
I'm not sure if it's us being here, or maybe we've uplifted people enough, but there seems to be a buffer here for one reason or another. I'm not exactly sure what causes it. People seem to be more at ease here. And there are a fair number of kinfolk running around.
I could definitely understand that.
Aaron outside actually is a very dear cousin to me.
Really? How dear?
Dear enough. Dear enough that she gets a nice recommendation when she's done with this internship so she can move on to the next phase of her education.
That's actually really nice. Sometimes I hope I can do more for my kin.
It's not easy to do. It's sometimes hard to make the kin feel as though they're appreciated.
That's very, very true. And I hate when I fail at that. Well, they don't tell me. They don't ever tell me that I've done wrong. They just go ahead and say, yes, Alan, continue on with the rest of their lives. I'm like, oh, I've done something wrong. And they're never going to tell me.
Was this previous relationship of yours a kin?
It would have to be, wouldn't it?
She kind of holds up her hands. I don't know how things are run within the Sept of the Green.
I have people that I look out for. People that have been with me for a while. People that I have literally taken out of the fire.
Haven't answered my question, though.
If she is a kin or not?
Yes.
The answer is yes.
I thought as much, but I didn't want to assume.
They come, relationships come, relationships go. It is as it is. Some people you stick with you for a very, very long time. Some people you're basically willing to kill and die for.
Do you think there's chances of you mending things with this kinfolk?
Maybe in a few months' time. I say that in a few months' time there'll be something bigger and nastier to distract me, and I'll go ahead and throw my life into that. I think I have fucked up priorities.
Well, such is life within the nation. On the one hand, you have your. She holds up both hands. On one hand, you have your personal relationships and you, Alan Stewart. On the other hand, you have imminent Armageddon and Silvertongue. And you're supposed to be somewhere in the middle.
If Silvertongue died tomorrow, I might be okay with it, just so long as all the bullshit that he was responsible for continues on.
And if Silvertongue were to die tomorrow, what would happen to Alan?
Assuming he didn't go along with Silvertongue,
Assuming.
Alan Stewart would go back to San Francisco.
I can't speak as to what would be right for you. You have to make that decision. But it sounds to me like you're having a very hard time with being Silvertongue. And you're the first member of the Scepter Degree, and I've said that too. Because I do see you struggling with it more than any of the others I've met with.
I'm older. I've been at this game for far longer.
We all burn out at some point. I'm sure even the spirals burn out at some point.
Me, I'm a burnt out old hippie. Dancers, I don't think ever burn out. I think they explode. I don't think they ever burn out.
I can't see a psyche, no matter how damaged, not being taxed to the point of breaking. I've heard tales of Spiral Ronin. I haven't had the opportunity to meet any yet, but I know they're out there somewhere.
I've heard a tale. He's looking at you. You probably don't see it, but you understand that the tone has gone ahead and changed in Stewart's voice.
Do tell.
It involves mention of one of our tribe's worst mistakes.
She sits back and inclines her head back.
There was once.
He was not a Roman. He was not a Roman. He was something very different, Mr. Stewart.
I know he was.
And I do not like sharing the title of Ronin with someone like that. Someone who stole a legacy that didn't rightly belong to them.
This is a tale about a Ronin that fought against him.
She'll sit back.
In San Francisco, this is not a tale told many, many times and only told in very, very hushed whispers and sometimes through very, very secure channels. Sometimes it's not even spoken, but simply gestured to and hinted at in dreams. Once there was the Skinner. Rachel?
No. Empathy.
Fair enough. And feel free to go ahead and knock me off my block if I'm stepping too much out of bounds with this little fluff you're giving me.
How much Kagi lore do you have?
3.
I would say that you have some scant details about the whole situation with the Skinner. So make it vague and broad. Just paint with broad strokes.
That's what I always do, my good sir. Alan Gazing continues. There was once the Skinner who was after a particular pelt for himself. One he knew was targeted by the dancers themselves. This was San Francisco, just a neighborhood off the Golden Gate Bridge, that wonderful bridge that's in all of the movies. On all of the movies, it's always destroyed. Why do you think that is? I think it's because we want it to be destroyed in some grand fashion, but that is for popular imagination to believe. The Skinner was after a pelt. A pure white pelt, you would say. He was very, very ravenous to get it. So what he did is he tracked this young one who did not even know his own nature. He tracked it to a little suburban residence, though. What did he find there? A few dancers. A few dancers more than willing to throw down with that diabolical entity that had stolen his heritage. But the Skinner himself proved too wily, too quick on the draw. They dropped them one by one, 3 in total to the ground due to that miraculous ammunition that he has with him at all times. They say he's a master hunter, and I'm more inclined to believe. He went ahead and found that young one that had been stolen away in the night, currently in a complete and utter traffic lock on the bridge. I believe it was the gifts of delirium and the fog that rolled in that protected the veil so much that night. Because there was another one, a dancer that had heard everything, a dancer that had gone his own way, set himself apart from his brothers for reasons I don't quite understand at the moment. But he and Skinner, they fought. And they fought, and they fought on that Golden Gate Bridge. They toppled cars, threw them into the river, ripped apart cables. It was all written off as some kind of freak accident. But you and I will both know the kind of freak accidents that occur between two warriors. So they continued the fight. And out from where that young one was being kept came out a clawed hand. A clawed hand that was angry, that was ravenous, that proceeded to frenzy and rage against both the combatants. Nobody knows exactly the details after that. But apparently, the hunter, the Skinner, was beaten back miraculously. They say that young cub was some kind of freak, trying to beat him back. Him and the dancer without no pack. Beat him back. Send him back to where he was once packing. They say that that young one and that Sparrow still share that bond. They're currently traveling the country. No, not traveling country. Traveling further into the desert. For reasons unknown.
It's a fine tale. But most of the spirals I have encountered are not nearly that altruistic.
I do not know if the reason this one fought against the traitor was altruistic. All I know is a good tale.
Well, if it's a good tale, let's go ahead and spin it as that he was altruistic, so that way at least it's redeemable to the audience you're trying to peddle it to when you do.
It's a story I don't tell to people because it's too hard to figure out all the details, where somebody's morals end to begin, who's actually the hero, or whether it's all just anti-hero nonsense. There's no clear-cut moral, there's no clear-cut story. That's why I don't tell it.
Alan, you're a gibbous-moon that can tell without even having to be told. You have a certain affinity for storytelling, I can tell. Have you ever encountered a spiral before?
He goes ahead and shakes his head. No. Close.
Never once.
Very close. Never head-to-head.
Which one did you come close to meeting?
I came close to... Okay. I came very, very close to coming in contact with the spiral. Back in Florida, actually. I had myself a little bit of a condo. I had myself a little bit of a life. I was still traveling around, trying to make my own way. I thought I had made some fantastic new friends. They weren't my friends. They were not my friends at all. And so I was a little bit more loose-lipped than I ought to have been. I told them things that jeopardized my safety. So while I was sleeping in my condo, and I heard a knock at 3 a.m. in the morning, I ran. Like, no questions. Simply got up, went to the back, grabbed my bug-out bag, and left. And behind me, I could hear his roars. But he never saw me, and I never saw him.
Are you sure it was a he?
There's the assumption.
What do you think of them?
What do I think about them? They're the enemies of the nation. Shrug. What else can I say?
Always been interested. Growing up, I was taught to hate them, in a certain sense. I was taught to hate the adversary. And I can't help but pity them.
Explain that to me.
They are patroned to a celestial being that's in unending agony, as the story goes. It's the source of the madness and the want for corruption. It seems that their cross purposes are ill-advised all too often. Gaian and Worm. The Worm is stuck in a never-ending cycle of pain and is trying to break free. At the same time, the Gaians are doing all they can to save and preserve, which is that which is wild, that which is sacred to them. Being able to step back and look at it. Who's the real perpetrator of the act? While their means may be horrific, The spiral's ends are to break that cycle and start anew.
The problem that it always comes down to is that they take everything that is sacred and corrupt it to their own end. They twist it, turn it, convert it.
This is true. I'm not necessarily saying that their ends justify means, but I've always wondered if they were to turn their attention to the Weaver and its madness and its webs.
What I know about the worm is that it hides very, very well within the Weaver's webs. Too well. He seems to measure his words, actually. You notice that when he says too well, it's almost as if he wanted something else tied in the Weaver's web very, very well. Not sure how better to explain that one.
Well, with 4 successes on a perception empathy.
Fair enough. So again, you're looking for the phrasing, you're looking for the tone of voice, the shifts, the pauses.
That she can actually see Alan. She might be blind, but she has ways around that. She just can't read individual letters.
All right, fair enough. So in broad strokes, you can see that Alan's sort of like gesturing with his hand to well. And you notice that he's looking away from you and out towards the window where there's probably a very, very nice cityscape currently set up. You probably have a very, very nice view in your particular office.
Yeah, it's not a high rise, but yeah, it's got a nice view of an idealistic street, so to speak. That's not covered in trash and bums.
It's
And
always
graffiti.
good. But that's your general idea.
Okay. So essentially, he's talking about I'm really not sure. I can't brain today.
You can't brain day? Well, don't worry. Neither can I. Let's just go ahead and there's a certain amount of envy in that voice. The envy that somebody is able to hide so well. How about that?
Is there any direction to that?
Any direction?
Is he directing? Essentially, is he trying to poke at her specifically?
Oh, no, no, no. It's not a direct poked at her.
Okay. She'll sit back and she'll nod. Well, unfortunately, for everyone, Gaian, Spiral, Ronan, all alike, we have a part of the Weaver in us. We'll never be able to escape that as long as we hold a physical form.
Ellen sort of looks in your direction, but isn't that why we're able to change forms so much, so that we can defy the Weaver?
We still can change forms, but our fleshy bodies have order to them. That is what the Weaver is in spirit. At least the triadic version of it is order.
No, 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 no. You probably noticed that Alan is waving like something in front of his face. You can assume that it's hand because it's attached to his arm or like his meaty chunk. He's like, no, 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 no. Body. That is completely an engine of creation. It is completely an engine of creation. There's nothing like not one bone, not one hair follicle, not one anything that wasn't absolutely created by your own processes. It's this, he goes ahead and like gestures towards his shirt, that is completely Weaver.
I suppose that depends on your perspective of things. Technically, the wild is nothing more than chaotic energy that is an act of sheer creation. It's the Weaver that took it and ordered it, and it is the worm that was originally meant to consume it and recycle it.
You notice that the next word is filled more with confusion than anything else, as Ellen just goes ahead and says, "What?"
You've never understood that about the triad?
I understood the triad a little bit. Been more, well, let's say my education was filled more with Garu heroes.
The wild is a force of sheer creation. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
But it is chaotic. It is unruly. It has no form or direct function other than to create. This is why when the Weaver tried to strike out at the wild first, it was unable. It simply could not be contained in a shell because it was a chaotic entity itself. But the Weaver would take what the wild passed to it and, by its own judgment, give it shape and form and purpose. And then, when it's time for the creation, when the time for creation of the particular creation was over, when it was meant to become nothing, again, the worm took it, broke it down, and then sent that essence back to the wild for creation. In a perfect triadic state, all three serve a purpose and all three are linked in a never-ending loop. This is fairly basic. I'm surprised that you never at least had an inkling of that.
No, I understand that. It's just that some people have different interpretations of it. Some people have different, complete, and utter histories of it.
Well, every oral history is geared towards the person that tells it.
This is true. This is
I'm
true.
sure that a Ronin will have a very different view from a Gaian, and a Gaian will have a very different view of it than a Spiral.
You know, Joyce, you're actually the first person to ever associate any one form with the Weaver, except for one Red Talon that I talk to occasionally.
I would find that conversation to be very interesting, but also very, how can I put this without sounding? It would be a conversation I would be very worried about stepping on eggshells, so to speak.
Yeah. Shakes his head.
I do believe that the way we are is how the Weaver originally intended to shape us when the Wild created us. And I suppose that if the worm were still in its right mind and serving its purpose, we would all be much better off. We probably wouldn't have the overstagnation that we have now.
Hmm.
Did you ever hear legends about the original minions of the worm?
He goes ahead and shakes his head. No, but if you know it, I'm eager to learn.
There's a conversation I once had with some members that hailed from the Uptena. We got into a very long-winded discussion. Other galleods like yourselves, and a few crescents. And we spoke from early in the afternoon to very late the next morning, reciting tales and going through the lake. And we got on this conversation that you and I are having, or at least very similar. And this Uktena Theurge, he stood and he spoke, and he spoke, and he spoke, and he would not stop speaking. But he did mention that at one time, the worm, when it was as it was meant to be, had great servants, great winged beasts. If I understood his meaning correctly, I would say that they were dragons. Very pure and true to their form, actual dragons. And of course, I've heard, no doubt that you've heard of Green Dragon, one of the servants of the worm.
No?
Well, the worm has its fair share of totems. I know you've had to at least heard of one or two.
They go ahead and tell me what I need to know in order to defeat, or at least hunt them down.
Fair enough. One of the most famous is called the Green Dragon. I do believe it was a howler totem originally. Very interesting totem. That it once belonged to a Gaian tribe. And yet, stories of the worm's original servants were always reported to be dragons in the truest sense, not the lizard kings, the Mokole, I believe they're called.
You notice that during this pregnant pause, Alan does not interrupt you.
But again, that's from a Theurge who had been up for at least 72 hours and had been speaking to us for at least 12.
I think I got that beat. Ugh. I remember they put me on duty, or at least I volunteered for duty, for about 7 days without no sleep.
That sounds like a rank challenge to me.
Not really, no.
No?
I did it because I wanted to prove to people that I could.
I see. And did you?
Yes.
And what happened afterwards?
Not much. Let's just say I had to make up for somebody else's mistakes.
You seem to do that a lot. It's a recurring theme with you.
Yeah.
Ellen, I think that you're in a good place with them. You just need to find a way that you can balance your life a little bit better. At least from what I can see. And I don't have an answer for you of how to do that. If you were simply a human, I would have a very good answer for you, but unfortunately, you're not. And you will see things that no human ever will or should have to see. I wish I had more answers for you that you could use to help yourself out of the situation that you're in. Mentally, at least.
What'd you say? 1 day at a time?
One
I
day at a
can
time.
definitely do that.
One day at a time and cheesecake.
Always good. Um, I hate to make this a little bit more formal than it has to be. You've been kind of helpful and kind of friendly, but do you understand that your continued presence in the city will generate more tension with the set?
I am here until I am bidden not to be here. I am here until the brand corporation decides that this center no longer needs my services.
Would you like to alleviate some of that tension? Just a little bit, so that we can all be good neighbors, at least.
I'm open to suggestion, but I don't expect to be going on to set grounds.
I don't expect that either, but what we can do right now is try to promise ourselves a clear line of communication, just so if something were to happen, there's no miscommunication or misinterpretation of the events that just happened, so that we can continue to be good neighbors, separate, but at least not fighting each other. Dear God, do we not? We do not need to be fighting each other anymore.
I could be amendable to that.
And I feel that at least some of my work has been done. I'm one of unicorn. I'm supposed to do that kind of thing.
Can I ask you an honest or a question that you'll be honest to?
I can try to be.
Were you sent here to evaluate whether or not we were a threat?
I was sent here to gather more information about you and do the proper accounting and record keeping that's expected by the nation. That is why I asked you those questions at the beginning of the session when we changed the subject, and while I will continue to ask those questions to Miss Black.
It's only fair. Thus far, what's your impression?
Thus far, my impression is that you are two Garu that prefer to live outside of the nation, that do not seem to be causing too much overt trouble, but whose presence causes tension. That is what I'm trying to alleviate, the tension between the two groups. If you wanted me to say that you have a fantastic conditioner and shampoo, yes, you do.
She'll kind of run her hand through her hair, run her fingers through her hair. Honestly, I don't know how Sarah does it.
I believe you two must be very, very good to each other.
We try to be, though there are times where I have left our cozy little abode and come here.
Trouble in Paradise?
Sometimes. No relationship is without flaws. Sometimes we get tired of each other, or at least each other's continued presence. But that's how married couples are.
Very well.
She sometimes gets very worked up over the fact that I don't seem to have too many opinions on issues involving our home life. And I have to remind her that when she gets angry about such things, is that I usually can't see exactly what she wants my input on.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not exactly sure how to feign interest, so to speak.
It's very, very easy. You just ask open-ended question like, how does that make you feel? Or can you please explain?
That doesn't work between us because that is very, very borderline psychobabble, Mr. Stewart.
I do it all the time, and it seems to get me places.
Yes, but your significant other is not also a psychologist.
I have no significant other at the moment.
I don't think that will be an issue for long.
Shaking my head. In any case, I'm very
She'll kind
glad.
of stop him, and she kind of leans forward. Do you not believe that you're worthy of another kin?
There's a very, very at that very, very pregnant question. Alan just goes ahead and stops, looks at her. My summer of love is ended.
Be that as it may, I can tell that you are someone who cares deeply about something they are passionate about. I can tell that you have good protective instincts, though maybe a bit overbearing. I can tell that you take care of yourself well enough. Your scent is pleasant. And judging by how you walked in here, I would say that you're fairly physically fit. While I may not be able to focus in on key features, and she kind of runs her hand across her face, so to speak. I can't imagine you being unattractive. At least not when I visualize you.
And now you're simply flattering me.
To a point, but also being observant from what I can observe.
That question, do I think I'm worthy of another kin's love? Might be worthy, but the arrangement would have to be a lot different.
Would you say that you've learned from your previous experience?
I hope so.
That's a place to go. That's a stepping stone. From what little I've gotten to know of you, you seem like you would be a catch. Maybe if you start to recognize that, your summer of love might renew.
Maybe next year.
There's only a few more months left in this year anyway. And she'll sit back with kind of that, half sarcastic but very thoughtful smirk. I suppose what I mean to say, Alan, is I don't see particularly bad things when it comes to you. But I also get the sense that you are not exactly willing to acknowledge that yourself.
Maybe that's why I'm going to a therapist.
Well, I have to say, if everybody didn't have any problems, I would find myself much more destitute.
This is true. This is true. I don't say this because I want to escape. You've been very, very friendly, very, very accommodating, wonderful company, but I feel like I gotta go.
Joy seems to understand his meaning more than he probably meant to infer.
Alan's gonna go ahead and sit up, stand beside that reclined chair or whatever comfy furniture you've got.
It's just a high back chair.
Your high back chair. Thank you for the session. Thank you for your time. And I do hope that the tension between your people and my people will be lessened. And I do hope that we be able to continue having these wonderful talks. It's been very enlightening for me.
She'll stand up and sort of reach down beside the chair and pull up what looks to be a collapsible cane, and she'll open it up. And she'll offer an arm to Alan. Why don't you allow me to walk you out?
Sure. They'll join arms.
And exit scene stage left.
All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for this wonderful episode of Living World of Darkness, Rage Across New York. We do hope that you continue to join us in future episodes. Bye-bye for now.